Okay, everybody, we have reached the bottom of the hour, so let's get started with today's LTEN webinar, Leveraging Games and Competition to Improve Knowledge, sponsored by the Game Agency and Radius Pharma. My name is Tim Sosbe. I'm Editorial Director for LTEN. It's my pleasure to welcome you today and to serve as a host of our program. I'm going to start here with some housekeeping items. We are planning about a 30 to 60-minute session for you today. We're going to try to get you some time back at the end of the hour. You'll notice that your phones are on mute, so any questions you have, please use the questions feature on the control panel there on the right side of your screen. You can just type in any questions and hit the submit button. We'll receive them, queue them up, and save them for the Q&A toward the end of the hour, or ask them if they're as needed throughout the program. But I always do urge people, if a question's fresh in your mind, please do type it in while it occurs to you, while it's fresh in your mind, and we'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. I also want to point out the handouts window. There are several items in the handouts window you may wish to download. Some information around LTEN in there. There's some information on the LTEN calendar of events. I'm going to show you a copy of that later in today's webinar as well. Some information on our LTEN e-learning lounge, a great way to do some micro learning while you're working from home and exploring virtual learning options. And of course, a list of our 2020 preferred industry partners, the people who, companies who help support LTEN and really help make LTEN events possible and whatnot. And we appreciate their support, like we appreciate the support today of today's sponsor, the Game Agency. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available for on-demand access in the self-directed learning library on the LTEN website. We're going to send you an email about 1 hour or so after today's webinar with a link to that recording, and it'll be posted in that self-directed learning library on the LTEN website even sooner than that, and I will share an address for the LTEN on-demand library later in today's program. And speaking of sharing, as you leave today's webinar, a follow-up survey is going to appear on a separate browser window. Please do take a moment as you leave today, look for that survey, and quickly share your thoughts about today's program. We produce these webinars for you, so your feedback is always appreciated. And along those lines, there's my email address at the bottom of the screen. I'll also share that later in today's program as well. If I can help you with anything around our webinars or your LTEN membership, certainly don't hesitate to ask. Okay, with all of that said, I'm going to turn things over here shortly to our speakers, Jaime McDonald and Nick Albert. Just to tell you about them real briefly, Nick is the Director of Sales Operation and Training at Radius Pharma. He has more than 20 years' experience in the pharma industry. Jaime is Executive Vice President of Customer Success at the Game Agency, where she oversees strategy and working with customers to develop game-based solutions to transform employee training and education. I know you're going to enjoy learning from both Jaime and Nick today, so I'm going to turn things over to Jaime to take it away. Jaime, thanks for joining us.
Great, thank you so much, Nick or Tim, for that introduction. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here with Nick to talk to you guys about games and the benefits of how you can use games and leverage competition, and a program that the Game Agency and Radius Health worked on together. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Jaime McDonald. I'm the EVP of Customer Success at the Game Agency. I've spent the last 26 years in sales and business development and working with strategic partnerships. I've been very fortunate to work with many pharmaceutical and life science organizations, and especially the last 4.5 years. So my role at the Game Agency is to work with clients to build games, develop game-based programs that are going to really help kind of transform your and ensure that you have some great success.
Good morning, everyone on the East Coast, West Coast, and good afternoon on everyone on the East Coast. My name is Nick Albert. I currently work for Radius Health. My background over 20 years, close to 25 years in the pharma industry, held multiple positions in sales leadership, marketing, and commercial learning and development. The last 5 years, I've led the Department of Commercial L&D for Roco Pharmaceuticals and now Radius Health. And just so about 1.5 years ago, they asked me to take on the sales operations piece too. So that's been a nice piece to get a little bit more analytical. I look forward to giving you a little perspective of what we did at Radius in partnership with the gaming agency and review the case today. Jaime, let's get started.
All right, thanks, Nick. Oops, okay, perfect. Whoop, sorry, I skipped ahead there. All right,
so let me give you a little bit background about who is Radius Health. So we are a science-driven, fully integrated biopharmaceutical company, and we are committed to really commercializing new and innovative endocrine therapies. Right now, we have a current product on the market is Tymlos. It's a baloperitide, which was approved by the FDA for the treatment of postmenopausal women with osteoporosis at high risk for fracture. We have multiple products in the pipeline as well, some focused on metastatic breast cancer, as well as additional delivery mechanisms for our baloperitide product.
And let's just give you a quick introduction about the game agency. So our real main role is to help you transfer your training and education using game-based solutions. So the bulk of our business is built around custom development. So we can build out any kind of custom game, whether it's for patient education, HCPs, large simulations, and so forth. But we also have a product that is called the Training Arcade Game It Yourself software, where you can build your own games yourself very fast and rapidly out to your learners. It has a library of different games, including the only a Jeopardy game for training. And then we also have a gamified learning experience platform called Motivate Cloud. But why do we have these products? And our ultimate goal when we're working with all of our customers and partners is to really help drive that engagement frequency, turn accuracy. We want to help you, especially with now the world being upside down and everyone working. We want to be able to max conference calls, your virtual meetings, live events, and of course, if you're doing e-learning inside your learning management system. The goal is to collect as much data as possible so you can measure and analyze both individual groups and ensure that the learning is actually being really effective, and then allow you to use those games absolutely anywhere your learners are. So we want to make sure that your trainers are becoming heroes, and that with the 3 C's, you want to keep your employees connected and collaborating and competing, especially with what's going on right now. Everybody working remotely and they don't see each other as much. And then of course finish that off with infusing fun into everything that you do with training. So I'm going to skip to our what we're going to be discussing today. So the main things are the benefits of game-based training. We're going to talk about 5 steps in how you can work to create your own gamified experience. Nick's going to walk you through the program that he implemented with his gamified training program and how he used challenges to motivate learners. And then, of course, we're going to dig deep into the analytics and how that can really help out your ROI. So when it comes to game-based training, the biggest right now is that people are so distracted with the day, with social media, with everything that's being with them, emails and texts and videos and YouTube. How do you really get your employees to be really connected and pay attention to what you're doing? They're distracted and they need feedback. So we found that games have been a really great way to do that, to really help kind of that attention, that retention, and in turn, it significantly improved their overall experience with learning. So when it comes to soft skills, I imagine there's a lot of folks on the line right now that deal with sales training. So in particular, we have a game that is a scenarios opportunity, which is fully branching, but using any kind of games that are going to really help put people in life situations where they need to learn to solve. They want to, maybe it's navigating a conversation with a virtual person, or overcoming objections, negotiating customer service, going into that doctor's office and trying to sell them their, the drug. The best thing that you can do with using games is allow people to practice with those soft skills to drive, emotional intelligence, allow them to problem solve and collaborate. In addition, the games can work very well when it comes to higher order thinking skills or hard skills, where you're pushing them to really improve their strategic thinking, formulate how to plan and analyze what they're going to do, and in turn, drive rapid adaptation. So one of the interesting stats that we found is that games can really help overall improve that knowledge retention. Most people are using a variety of tactics for learning, whether it be demos, presentations, having discussions. But when you add games into the mix, we found that there was a 75 to 90% lift in knowledge retention, because games really do allow you to practice. If you use a game as a follow-up to a training session, you're giving your learners an opportunity to practice with the content you just taught them and really fail safely, because if they don't get questions right the play, because they're having fun, they're likely to go back and play that game again and again. They can either go higher up on the leaderboard, or more importantly, spend more time with your content so that the content is really sinking into their long-term memory. And in turn, once they know that content, they can share that with others and really be a teacher of the knowledge. So how do you, oops, sorry, I skipped ahead there. So how do you measure? It's really, really important to not just use a 3 questions at the end of a learning session and ask people what they thought. Benefit to using games is that games track so unique knowledge from individuals and group perspectives. It'll tell you how many they played a game, how they answered each, how many attempts it took them before they actually got a question right. And the behavioral trends that you'll find out of all that data is really helpful. And the next slide I'm going to talk about here is a study that we did of a game platform, and we found was that on average people were staying about 6 minutes a session, and they were coming back 2.9 times on their own free will. So that's roughly 18 minutes of time spent with your content. And the value there is that the more times they play the game, the higher the knowledge retention is sinking in. So, it's not often that somebody would come up to you after a training session and say, wow, that was so great. Can I take your training session over and over again? But with a game, they have that opportunity. If they see at the end of the game that they didn't do so well on the leaderboard, for instance, they might click that play again button and try again until they've, driven that knowledge home. So what we saw was that there was a 64% lift in knowledge retention from the first time somebody played a game all the way to the third time. So what is this ultimately do? By using games, you're going to, engage your learners. It's going to increase both their retention and attention. They're staying focused at the task at hand, because when you're playing a game, you really can't focus on anything else at that time. As the knowledge increases, so does their confidence. Hopefully it's going to change their behavior, and they're going to, be a higher performer within your organization, which of course is going to turn into more revenue for you. So now 5 things to think about when you're creating a game experience. And these were things that Nick and I talked about when we were working on our project at the beginning. First, it's really about who's your audience and what are you trying to achieve at the end of your program? What you're trying to get to? What's the environment they're going to be in? Is this an e-learning opportunity? Or are you trying to do virtual, like, right now everybody's working from home and scrambling to keep employees connected? Is this going to be something that's for an upcoming live event, hopefully when the world gets back to normal and live events start happening again? What exactly are you building, and for what kind of audience environment? The next thing is really to understand what it is that you want your learners to spend time learning inside these, and how much you want to give them. Because if you really refresh that content and you give them more to learn, it's going to, provide a unique opportunity for them to, to kind of take baby steps into using games for learning. What's the purpose of these playing games? Some people want to use games just for fun, but more importantly, it's really meant to boost knowledge. And then if you want to take things a step further, like Nick did, you want to layer in new things like competition, contest challenges, use leaderboards to drive that competition, and of course, add some prizes. And the thing is, what kind of incentives do you want to provide to your learners? And Nick's going to get into all of this when he starts to talk about this case study. You want to take it from here?
Yeah, let's do it. So let me set the context a little bit, where we were as a company when we started this initiative, so all of you people online can get some perspective. Radius Health is a little over 3 years in its commercialization. So we were a new company, stand up, a startup. We had a brand, we had the launch, we had a short timeline. So we had to stand up all learning and development, all assets, all training, and all of our sales force was new to the company. So that was around 3 years ago. So we did a comprehensive wholesale, disease therapeutic, start to finish, right? Soup to nuts training, not only on our disease state, but therapeutics. Our product is a specialty drug too. So it goes through specialty pharma. So you have a lot of different specific education to the market access piece and distribution networks. And then we also have a significant compliance piece as well, right? Being that we're a specialty product, you have amped up compliance training. All of this was done 3 years ago, and we did use gaming for the launch of our Salesforce, right, and the launch of our product, and it was very successful. Came back, the feedback from the Salesforce was, let's continue a gaming type of approach. So that's what we did. We did an assessment or a gap analysis to evaluate what were our retention rates within the Salesforce, and we identified that we had a pretty significant drop in retention after that first year, which would be expected, right? We had continuous workshop trainings at POAs and sales meetings. We had continuous touch points. We have a field-based training team that helps support onboarding, but the existing Salesforce definitely was dropping in their retention of key information. So we look for an initiative that really our learning objective or objective for the organization was to find a method to improve this knowledge retention in all aspects, from product, therapeutic, competition, compliance, and market access pieces. So we looked at a lot of different modalities. We did, a lot of capabilities presentations with different vendors, and we decided to try to be, I guess, a played out word, but we wanted to be innovative and cutting edge. And so we moved to a gaming type of approach. So we wanted to have it self-driven. What I mean by that is we want the motivation of the sales people to engage the platform as opposed to us assigning them required learning. So that's what was one of our objectives as well, is that we wanted the engagement to be driven by the peer-to-peer influences or competition, as well as incentive-based kind of learning. And then we wanted to ensure that it was motivating, right? And it was fun. And then we, on our side of the fence, we wanted to leverage the analytics to drive future training initiatives, as well as to make, to validate some of our initial gap analysis, and to, measure the improvement in retention and comprehension of knowledge, right? So this wasn't this can piggyback then into, capabilities training, selling skill training, but more, we did do selling skill topics in here as well to leverage a little bit of our selling model and really reinforce the foundation of our selling system. So, but it definitely was a retention tool. So kind of, let me make sure I got control of these slides. Yeah, too far. It is sensitive, Jamie. So solution. So what did we do? We decided to partner with the gaming agency and a couple of reasons why. We wanted a portal that was driven through our we have an LMS, but we don't leverage that in the field. We have more of one of the I don't want to use the company's name, but we have like an app that houses all of our content, and we do all of our meeting management through that app. And with that particular place for all of our content, we wanted to have a pass through into a learning, into a gaming portal, which we were able to do. So our Salesforce has the comprehensive portal. We'll give you some images in a couple slides that allows them to engage and compete with their peers for incentive prizes and kudos, I guess, within their areas, regions, from their first line and second line leaders. So we have a focus on competing in contests. We have an established a challenger coworker, and that's just not field-based. They could challenge the head of sales. They could challenge me. They challenge the training managers. They challenge the area field directors if they were interested. Achievement milestones were definitely something that were established in the front, right? We set our learning objectives of what we were trying to accomplish so we can assess if the program and platform was meeting those objectives. And we definitely wanted to be self-driven. So layering in, I use this example all the time. You could partner, and I'm sure there's a bunch of friends on the line and vendors that create our learning modules. They're very important to have, right? To have that foundational baseline of training. But if you think about it, to do a really strong e-learning core, e-learning module with, animation and interactive learning events and all that, you're talking at least $30,000, right, for a module for, comprehensive, good one. So we figured, well, let's leverage some of those dollars and build incentives to drive participation in the retention program. So we were able to make it a big initiative. We started out and launched a program with a quarter before our national sales meeting. We tick and tied it to our awards evening at the NSM. So we have robust data to measure learning within this platform and evaluate the learning gaps to help us drive learning objectives for our national sales meeting workshops. And importantly, they all like to play games. That was one of the feedback. We have a diverse field CSS group. We call them clinical sales specialists or representative sales reps. They are not just traditional millennials or the younger. We have more seasoned professionals. And so we were hesitant at first about gaming, but it really resulted in very positive outcomes. So what games did we roll with? We created something called the Radius Arcade, right? So we wanted to have a series of different games, and we picked a variety of different games, and we created very similar topics in the same game. And why did we do that? Because some people were very focused and enjoyed playing trivia, while others liked the mindless kind of games like Jump. Some liked the Candy Crush type of games like a Match. Right, so there was different preferences and type of games that our employees and users like to use. So we wanted to make sure we had repetitive content within each game type, so we were covering all the topics. And I'll share an example. But we have over 20 games for learners to come back and play regularly, and we do consistent challenges to keep them engaged. We do a corporate newsletter, a field-facing newsletter every week for field communications, and we make sure we have an article in there demonstrating a lot of the positive outcomes, some of the analytics, and of course the leaderboard, and trying to entice them to maintain engagement within the platform. So here's a little picture of kind of what we did too. We asked the gaming agency to do some custom work, which was nice. They were able to just create a lot of custom stuff that we were interested in doing. So one of the gaming tactics that you guys probably all know very well from the games you play on your phones is if you go in every day, you can get a little bonus steps or chips. We created steps, so they could go back every day to win steps to increase the leaderboard outside of playing the games, right? Of course, playing the games will get you to the prizes, but the steps also helped you. So that daily spinning of the wheel was very effective in getting a consistent daily engagement. So kind of taking a look at our portal or platform we created, it's in the Radius green color. We have, you can see the topic or the challenge of the week is on the top. Each week we change that challenge. This one's a compliance and legal. It talks about all the different compliance guardrails and guidelines that are appropriate when engaging healthcare providers, especially with our specialty drug. And you can see on the left-hand side, we had your specific, there's Jamie and her progress throughout the program with the number of steps. And then you had the different leaderboards. So we had leaderboards for every game, but we also had a comprehensive leaderboard that was standard when you jumped in. On the right-hand side here, you could see the different types of games. So you could click on what game am I interested in playing. Like I stated before, let's say you like the Candy Crush type of approach, which is like the match game, right? Match, you would click on, well, I really am interested in learning a little bit about the clinical studies of our competitors, or maybe I'm interested in a little bit more about the market access tools and content that I need to use with interacting with my office staff. So you could pick the actual topic aligned to the game that you prefer to play. So that way everyone has a preference of the game and still gets similar content. Then, like I said before, we had weekly challenges where every week you would have to compete and get extra points to win bonuses. Now, the way this thing works is you're playing these games, yes, but in order to get the power up or progress through the game, you have to answer a series of questions specific to that topic. So if you played a package insert game about your product and you want to learn more product details, in order to get the bomb to blow up the piece in Candy Crush, to continue and progress in the game to get to the different levels, you need to answer the questions correctly, and quickly. The quicker and more accuracy you have, the more power ups you get, which allows you to play the game longer, which is pretty cool. So then we have these comprehensive leaderboards, and you can see the progression of progress. So the progress bar, we asked them, we're interested in doing these levels. Some people have badges in their games. We wanted to do levels at Radius. So we asked them to customize a prizing type of structure where you can see a timeline and then all the different levels. And each level had what you could win: $10 gift cards, $25 gift cards, Yeti, travel mugs, portable chargers. And as you progress through the levels, the prizes got richer and richer, right? Which really drove people to continue to engage, because we know that repetitive reviews of content helps you with retention, right? Obviously, we all know that. So we wanted to make sure that they were getting these questions multiple times, repetitive, and we had significant volumes of questions, right, within these categories. We created a significant bolus of questions, and then so they wouldn't see the exact same question all the time, every game, but after 3 or 4 games, they would start seeing similar questions, which will allow them to get more power-ups, more points, and progress through. What we did for the first trial of this for prizing or milestone is we linked it, like I said, to our national sales meeting. So we had, if you are first, second, or third place in the leaderboard at the end of the quarter, before, like the week before we go into the national sales meeting, you would be brought up on stage during the award ceremony, and first place would win a smart television, second place would win an Apple Watch, and third place would win like a Bose Bluetooth headset. All high-end giveaways, but more the recognition in front of their peers and little trophies and about the progress, pride of their team. That's really what we were driving, that peer-to-peer influence, and that really drove engagement. That way we didn't have to go out to the sales leadership and talk to them about, hey, getting your team to get involved, because they were all self-driving. So what were the results of this? So okay, we thought of all these gaming techniques that you see on your phone every day, and these different apps to try to drive people in. So we worked together with the gaming agency to make sure we had those tactics. But did it work? Did it meet our learning objectives? Yeah, people had fun, they won prizes, but did we really increase knowledge? Did we really result in increased sales performance within our sales force? Were our ATOs coming back with increased levels of confidence from our healthcare providers around engagement of our sales force with our customer? And what we did see was increased engagement and motivation from the sales teams. We definitely had positive feedback, a lot of emails flying around to how they were using some of the content they learned in conversations with customers. Understanding a little bit more of the compliance guardrails was very important. And most players were really invested in their own results. Like, I need to understand why I got this wrong, or why am I not getting these points, because they were driving to get that Yeti travel mug for their car. And then the competition too. So a lot of the managers set individual regional requirements or kind of goals for their team. They did it on their own. We didn't do that from the corporate office, but I want everyone in the whole region to reach at least level 3. That's your goal. If you play longer than that, great. Level 3 is what I want. And then they would each say you would each have to challenge at least someone across the nation at least one time a week. So that way we were trying to cross-pollinate interactions between different groups in different areas, and not just with their local regions, which was really cool, right? Because everyone was learning. Remember, the company's new. We're 3 years old, so there's a lot of new people learning each other. So we use that as like a cultural type of build. Then we also saw increased accuracy in player performance. So let's go into some of the details. Significantly improved retention, and we're currently doing it again with the COVID. pandemic, we just relaunched this a week ago or 2 weeks ago because we were so successful before our January or December national sales meeting. We reamped this thing and relaunched it now that everyone has virtual or time at home or virtual calls going on. They could play and keep their knowledge levels up. So let's take a look at some of the addressing the knowledge gaps. So when people start playing, this is our PI, right? This is our product package insert. And what was very interesting was they went through robust training, at the start of this, right? With certifications and formal assessments, right? And the knowledge retention of some of the key information in the PI was lost. Study details or some of the, drug-to-drug interactions or whatever we might have had as a question, but we saw some of our baseline knowledge come out in their first time playing the game at a 20%. It ranged from 20 to 60%, the average more and around the 40 to 60, but that is not proficient enough to interact with customers specifically around the pharmaceutical product, right? Or biologic. So you definitely need to amp up that knowledge. So sharing that information with the RSMs or with your regional sales manager, first line leader, really drove them to keep pushing their people into the game as well. So we gave the stats as one of communications to the managers. But look at the increase in performance over the number of sessions played. Now, remember, this is not just the same, a series of 10 questions. These are hundreds of questions being repeated over and over the longer you played. But towards the end of the sessions, after they played 50 sessions, you can see our increase in knowledge retention on that content went up significantly, up to the 90% you can see there. So, improved 80% swing in knowledge retention on key information that they need to know to interact with customers. So very successful. You can see here that, looking at the bottom graph, correct and incorrect answers over the sessions, you could see that was improved over time. The next kind of analytic page you can see is, increase in accuracy in all sessions, not only just one game. That was like a dramatic increase in some of the nuanced details of the brand that kind of lost in retention. But now it's like everything, compliance, market access, all the different topics over time through the number of sessions and gameplays that they made had increased knowledge retention across all boards. And then looking at our launch of our product and our sales, we did see a bump after the national sales meeting, growth in sales. After not attributing it all to this program, obviously we have a lot of initiatives going on and training sessions, but this knowledge was higher. People had more confidence in engaging customers. Player performance, you can see over here, in general, the more questions a player answered, the higher their overall accuracy. Obviously, they start getting accustomed to the questions. One of the things we're doing in the session is we're now mixing up, the answers. Obviously, we don't want them to memorize a question and know it's answer B. We want them to answer, the correct answer to the question. So we definitely scramble the answers every time they see it, and we randomize the question, of course, so they're not seeing the same questions in the same order or the same answers in the same order. And you're definitely seeing top players. There are some super users. There's some people that love the gaming platform so much that we actually had to build in some triggers to not allow them to play all day and actually go do customer calls. So we do have limitations on how much they can engage on a daily basis. That's because you will have some super users. And then the breadth of knowledge, obviously, in all the different topics that we had, I kind of went through all of them. We saw that in general, this initiative, the Radius Arcade that we rolled out, linked to a timeline, right? Because we do know if you launch these training portals and just leave them open over time and you don't have anything new, fresh, or any end game, your participation trails off. So with our program ending at the national sales meeting, we definitely had a lot of success, and you can see across all topics. We had some people play more than 1,000 games. A good percentage of our sales force made it to the award levels and had played every single topic. We didn't have anyone in the company who didn't engage the platform, and that was driven through management engagement. Also, you want to look at how fast are they, how fast are they looking at the content, because we allow them time if they want to look up content, if they are interested in finding the assets. We didn't link, it doesn't have the capabilities to link to content. You can do follow-up, but I wanted to let you know that we had significant increase in the speed that they were answering the questions as well. So some of the deliverables, we're very pleased with our first engagement. We are in phase 2 where we have all these great ideas to customize the platform to get a next version out. The Salesforce did ask for a little bit of the platform to be enhanced. We did, field advisory panels and our field trainers to give us guidance on how we would improve the platform for next time. But a couple of key takeaways, focus on the learning and the experience in tandem, because the learning objectives are important on how the content's developed, but the experience is driving the engagement. Make sure your games align with the performance objectives that are driving your sales performance. What we do is we assess our field coaching reports and talk to our marketing colleagues as well as our sales leadership to understand what skills, knowledge, or capabilities are they observing that are driving performance, and then we link and ensure that's aligned there. We also use the marketing tools to make sure the questions are reinforcing the key information that are showing up in the market research. Look at start off easy, increase difficulty gradually. You don't want to start off with such aggressive, hard content that it turns them off to the game. You want them to get used to the platform and start making it a habit, and then you can start amping up your content difficulty. Provide in-game feedback, keep them excited, right? Continue with the communications. High level of communications is essential to keep them engaged. And what we're doing on phase 2, we're actually sending the prizes out when they reach the level instead of the end of the game. So if they want a $10 Amazon gift card, we're sending that out when they want it. So that way they, it triggers them to get back into the game to continue to the next level. And encourage learners and managers to progress. One thing that we need to do a little better is get our managers to engage. We had some managers that were really into it, and a lot of managers were like, this is for the reps. But we need to get our managers to engage more so their content level is really amped up as well, so they could do a better job coaching and observing during their field observations. So at that point, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our case that we did with the gaming agency at Radius, and we'll turn it over to Jamie for any closing words and Tim for any questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Nick. That was really great. It's been such a pleasure to work with you on this program. And I just want to thank LTEN and everybody who is attending today, and Nick, of course, for joining and learning a little bit more. Before we open it up for questions, I just wanted to let you all know that, given the fact that everybody's working from home right now and you're looking likely to find new ways to keep your employees connected, we do provide a 30-day free trial of the Training Arcade, which would give you access to Jeopardy and all the other games in there, scenarios and so forth. And that plans to build out games with your own content. You could play games with your own happy hours and just test out the platform for 30 days. And in addition, if anyone wanted someone from the game agency to actually host a Jeopardy happy hour for your team one night or one noon, just reach out and let me know. We'd be completely happy to do that. And we've seen a lot of other companies doing that and having a lot of fun with it. So thanks again.
Well, thanks, Jamie and Nick. Great presentation. Appreciate that. And Jamie, you just answered a question from Nicole. Nicole asked, can we get an example? Can we see examples of what the games look like? And I suppose that free trial is the best way to do that.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, if you go to the trainingarcade.com, there are games to play for each of the games available as well.
Excellent. Well, we have a lot of questions here, so that's great, folks. If you have questions for Jamie or Nick, feel free to type them on in now into the questions window, and let me start going through this list here. Nick, Trish asked, did you use the gaming platform in lieu of an LMS?
So yeah, we did not link this through our LMS. We have a compliance wire, but we also have another learning app or platform that houses content. So it's not in lieu of. We don't want people to go to a separate location. We want everyone to go to find their learning or their training content or anything they have to do with the field in this one location. So what we did is we created a tile within that app, and we link through a web link into the gaming platform. So it seems like it's part of our, our learning app that they use. It's not an official LMS, but it's similar to it. It's like LMS Lite, you might want to say.
Yeah, and we set up a single sign-on in order to do that.
Yep, that's correct. Yep. So yeah, so they don't even know that they're jumping across.
Excellent. Both Nicole and Stephen, and Trish says, okay, perfect, thank you. Both Nicole and Stephen ask a version of the same question. Who wrote the questions, and did they go through for the testing, and did they go through some sort of medical or legal review?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we did not partner with a gaming agency in developing content. We just used the platform and some ideas to drive the content. So we use a separate vendor partner as well as internal um, marketing, market access, and all the different departments to come up with questions. So we did go through our medical, legal, and regulatory review process, had everything approved prior to use. They got a demo of the platform to make sure they knew how it was delivered, and all of the content was approved by our internal. All the questions were approved prior to going live.
Excellent, thank you. Another good question. What was the time frame, Nick, between when the game platform was deployed through the end of your NSM meeting?
Yeah, it was a little over 1 quarter. We did 3 months. So we thought that was a good time to just launch it as a ramp up to the NSM. So at the same time, the marketing department and marketing operations were driving communications to excite the sales force for the national sales meeting in December, we were leveraging that excitement too with the gaming platform. So we did 3 months.
Excellent, thank you. Jamie, a question here for you from Delaney. Delaney is asking, if we author using the training arcade, how will those deliverables be hosted? Are they SCORM compliant for an LMS, or do they need to be hosted by the game agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there is a lot of flexibility with that. So the games are SCORM compliant. You download the games, this is them in your LMS. But if you don't want to use an LMS, you can also, because the games are web-based and they're hosted on our cloud, on our servers, they can be to your learners in any build courses, let's say, using any of the tools like Storyline or Captivate or Lector directly into the course. And then at that point, when the learner gets to the game inside your course, it'll launch right there within the course. You can use an embed to load the games and iframe them into your website or any HTML support. You can email or links to your learners. And now what a lot of people are doing is if you're using any kind of video conference software like WebEx or GoToMeeting or Teams or Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever you guys use, you can simply take the game link that you create and drop it into the chat window of your thing, and then people play it in single player mode, or better, called instructor mode. How the person running the meeting be like a host like Alex Trebek and run the controls of the game question by question, which would really turn the game into a much more interactive experience. So there is a lot of flexibility with either using it as a SCORM file or just sending that link out to folks.
Hey, Jamie, let me follow up on that real quick. We did an assessment too. Did we want to just package these games up in SCORM and drop them into our learning app? Because the learning app runs SCORM as well, right? Or AICC compliant stuff. More SCORM nowadays. I'm showing my age. But we decided to go to their platform because we wanted the leaderboards. We wanted all the features within their portal that the LMS couldn't provide, right? So that's something to think about. If you're doing the Jeopardy game, like Jamie was just mentioning, you could definitely run it like just a workshop and do a one-time kind of learning event on your LMS, right? So it's something you would have to look at your objectives of how you want to leverage the, the game or the approach you're doing, and then make a decision how you want to deploy it.
Excellent, thank you. And Delaney says thank you as well. We have a fun question from Don. We just talked about compliance a little bit. How do you ensure categories like compliance are completed along with the more fun categories?
That's a great question. So I'll let Jamie also give any some ideas here, but what we did was, from our side of the fence, we limited the amount of times they could play certain games, and then we did category of the week, like those contests. So we would push topics to them where they would earn more points or more prizes if they played that category, and then we would also limit if you played one topic, it forced you to play the next topic if you wanted to continue playing in the portal. And Jamie, you have any other additional comments?
Yeah, absolutely. So, all the analytics dashboard is capturing all the data that's happening behind the scenes from playing the games. So you would actually be able to go to the back end of the system if you were using the platform and see who finished it and at what level, how many questions they got through. But you can also assign a pass fail to it. So you could say that they have to at least get 80% right, let's say, or 90% right in the game in order to pass. So you could assign those kind of stipulations for somebody when they're playing, and then of course, since the data is all available at your fingertips, you'd know who did it, who didn't, and you can go back to the people who maybe weren't so compliant.
Nice, thank you. We have a couple of questions here around the prizes. Let's start with the one from Hara. Hara, how do the gifts come? Where do the gifts come from? Are they purchased by individual company or by the game agency? And she's asking because of tax liability questions.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We partner with finance to make sure we cleared our prizes, to make sure they were in tax code, right? Did it have to be captured in their payroll? The big prizes, absolutely. We actually grossed up to make sure that they didn't, it was captured in their paycheck, but we grossed up the total cost so they didn't get the tax liability. We actually covered it. But for the lower level prizes, the $10 gift cards, finance made decisions on how to measure that. So I would recommend going to your finance team where you're doing those. And how was it logistically managed? This is something I came back from version 2 and said, could you add that gaming agency to manage the distribution of that? Because what they did, they gave me a big Excel spreadsheet with all the different prizes and who won what. And I just went shopping, and then I sent it. It was nice for the first one because they had a handwritten note from me. I had to fill out 150 of these, things and bring them to the post office. But I was like, great job on this, thank you. And I sent them the gift cards, a little note, and a little certificate to make it personable. A little, personal touch helped a lot. That really, I got a lot of good feedback on that. But that's the way we did it. It was a lot of heavy lifting to stack the envelopes and go buy the gift cards, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, let me ask you a fun question, Nick. Did you have any issues with people trying to cheat to win prizes?
Let's see. Of course, but this platform doesn't, if they're cheating and they're learning, good for them. No, but the one thing I would say is, are they cheating? They can't. They have to complete the game to get the points to earn the prizes. So the portal really drives them through the content to be able to reach the levels to win the prizes. So if you're not playing the games and you're not answering the questions, if someone wanted to take pictures of the questions and learn them and try to circumvent some of the system to be able to answer the questions faster, good for them. They're studying, in my perspective, and they're learning at the same time. My objective is that at the end, their knowledge retention is there, and I can see an improvement of their competency, to the content.
Thanks. Great answer. Another question on the awards. Any awards for sales leadership, and did they participate?
Yeah, this is good feedback. Yeah, so learning from me on what not to do, right? So we had all the big prizes for the reps, and we didn't give out big prizes. And some of the for the managers, and some of the feedback that came back was, let's have our own manager leaderboard and prizes for us. So since we didn't see an active, aggressive participation by the comprehensive leadership team, we did see some. We decided on our phase 2 that we launched this time to segment the leaderboards and do a manager piece where the managers did win the gift cards, but they weren't eligible for the big 3 prizes at the national sales meeting. So we did give them the lower level prizes like the Yetis or the you know, the other the gift baskets and all those other things. So yes, we gave them prizes, but now they want the big prizes too. They want to get recognized. So the next version, we're going to be giving them that opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you. It looks like we have one last question here, folks. If you have any additional questions, now is a great time to send them on in. Kate, by the way, says thank you. This has been great knowledge, and thank you, Kate. It has been a good program. So again, if you have any questions, send them on in. Otherwise, we have one question here from Maria. Maria is asking, was the training arcade used organically by the sales force, or was it used to drive sales force members to achieve performance goals in the last mile? So regional goals were then achieved as well.
That's a very good question. I'm trying to think through how is it leveraged? I think it was the latter. I think if I understand the question correctly, it was regional level objectives. So each manager had their own goals, but from a L&D standpoint, corporately, we wanted just a national improvement in our retention scores. So I guess I hit both sides of the fence. If I, Tim, do you think I answered that correctly? Am I reading that question correctly?
I think you did, Maria. If you want to clarify, feel free to.
Yeah. And I'm open to discuss with anyone online. If anyone wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, you could find me on LinkedIn, Nick Albert at Radius Health, and I'm happy to talk live with any of you guys on any of the outcomes or methods in which we were assessing the different vendor partners as well as the objectives, right? We saw some amazing vendor partners along the way, but our objectives just fit really nice with this particular platform, and the results were phenomenal. So we'll continue to work with them over the next couple phases of doing this. Continue to customize.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate those words, and it's been great to partner with you as well.
Excellent. We do have one more question for you. Nick, any regional-based questions based on different market conditions?
Oh, that's interesting. Yes, that's a very good question. So some of the feedback that we got from the West Coast versus the East Coast or different was the market access or the specialty pharmacy stuff had unique qualities that they wanted to be more specific in the questions moving forward. They loved the fact that they were gaining this knowledge, but they were like, can we customize it? So we haven't implemented that yet, but we are looking to make it more regionally or local based content specific to the market access side of the fence. They do like learning in this way. We really got good feedback. I wouldn't use the platform for, let's say, application-based learning like a workshop, but it definitely sets up the knowledge or, the really comprehension levels really high so they can really apply well during those application-based learning events.
Excellent. Well, it looks like that brings us to, I was about to close off Q&A a little prematurely. We have another question. Folks, if you have any questions, keep typing them in. You're doing great. Thank you very much. A question from Miriam. Miriam's asking, do you also use the platform outside of the U.S. with different languages?
We do not. We are just a U.S.-based company. I'll punt that to Jamie if you have that capability.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the games are available right now in 16 languages. So basically what that means, you're building out a game, you can pick your default language to build a game in. So let's say you build a game in English, but then you also want it in German and Spanish and Italian and Japanese or Chinese, whatever you want. The way that our system works is once you've built the game in the default language, we have this really nifty translation feature where you can download the spreadsheet that will have everything you've already inputted into the game in your default language. And then next to that will be all different columns of other languages available. So we've translated the back end of the game. What I mean by that is we've translated the things like the start button, the instructions on how to play, the leaderboard, the screen, things like that. But what we don't do is we don't translate your content. So what you can do, you take the content you've built in English, let's say, you hand it over to your translation company or whoever on your team would handle that for you. They populate the translations into the appropriate columns in that spreadsheet. And then all you have to do is upload that spreadsheet back into them, and the game will automatically be available in all the languages. So let's say you made a game in 7 languages, and then you send that one game link out to everybody globally. When they go to play that game, if they're in Germany, let's say, and they want to play the game in German, all you do on the opening game screen is click from a drop-down menu and say German, and the game will automatically change into German. So it's really, really cool. It's great for global learning, especially if you have, you know, a global. And if there are languages that your team needs that are not already in the platform, that is definitely something that we can accommodate, new languages.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. And it looks like we have one last question. Again, folks, if you have any questions, keep typing them in. Jamie, some folks have asked about the training arcade. Can you repeat again where the training arcade can be located?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to thetrainingarcade.com, you will find all information you want about the platform. You'll be able to set up of it. I'm happy to, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to set up a demo with your team as well to walk you through what the games are, how the platform works. There are also samples of each of the games websites. So if you wanted to go play around with some samples that we have there, you can do that. So happy to help, but it's thetrainingarcade.com.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And I think we're going to put that address in the chat window for everybody. It's thetrainingarcade.com.
Yep.
Great. I'm going to send that out right now to everybody. There we go. Folks, that looks like that does bring us to the end of the Q&A, so I'm going to go ahead and close that off for us today. But if you have any additional questions, keep typing them in, keep sending them in. We can get you answers offline as well. And certainly, as you probably noticed, Jamie and Nick were kind enough to share their contact information here as well. So certainly, I'm sure they'd love to hear from you as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Jamie, Nick, yeah, it's a great presentation. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time, Nick. Thanks for partnering with us. Thanks for being here today on the presentation, and Tim, thank you as well for hosting, and everybody at LTEN and everyone who joined.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Nick. Just as we close out, folks, I'm going to end with just some few items to let you know about things we're doing here at LTEN. We are producing, as you might know, and hopefully have taken part in, a series of virtual webinars and whatnot. We have also put together a page full of with links to virtual training resources, toolkits, templates, articles, webinars, more, things like that. You can visit the LTEN website. Here's the direct URL for that page. You can also find it just through the whole home page very easily. Also, if you don't already have the LTEN On The Go app, make sure you download a copy of that. We do have a new virtual training forum on there. It's a good place, especially at this time of year this time of society, basically, where everyone is worried and concerned about and upskilling themselves on virtual training. Good place to connect with your LTEN colleagues, share resources, support one another, things like that. So certainly look for that first forum on the LTEN On The Go app, which you can download through this URL showing here or through your smartphone app store. Here's just a quick look at our upcoming calendar events. There's also a copy of this in the handouts window, just to see where we are now with upcoming webinars and what the fall and later summer looks like for us as events allow. Again, you can always find that on the LTEN website as well. The calendar of events always available on the website. And finally, here's a list of upcoming webinars. I'm going to invite you all to join us next Wednesday for our next program, Reimagining the National POA Meeting. That'll be at Wednesday, April 29th, and then we'll be back on the 30th talking about transforming learning with virtual reality. And next Friday, a week from tomorrow, critical success factors for live simulations. You can find out more information and register for these webinars at l-10.org/webinars. Today's program, again, has been recorded and will be archived to this address here, our self-directed learning library on the LTEN website. We're also going to send you an email about an hour from now with a link to that recording. So let me send final thank yous. I'm going to thank our speakers today, Nick Albert and Jaime McDonald. I'm going to send thank our sponsors, the Game Agency and Radius Health. And I'm going to thank all of you for participating in today's program. I wish you all a good rest of your day, good rest of your week, and stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.